Sorry about that. That last video ended pretty abruptly, and I want to explain why. So I don't want to tell you the really long story, but I do think the context matters. So I talk about deconstructing and reconstructing, and it might seem like it's easy, or it might seem like the hard parts of that don't like intersect my life, and that is not true. It has been definitely a few weeks, maybe a few months, where I've just felt that heaviness that I described in the last video, that was just like an overwhelming feeling of heaviness, not darkness, not like hopelessness or depression, but just like the absence of feeling the presence of the Lord. And Tuesday morning was like the pinnacle of that. It had just been this growing heaviness for weeks, months, that I would maybe have like little spurts of relief where I would strongly sense the Lord or receive a word from the Lord. But I can't remember how long it was, but Tuesday morning was just like the end of what I could handle. So that word that I was recording Tuesday morning, I was doing it right then because it had been so long since I had really received a word. And the day before that, I recorded the video about come right back. And so I just felt really convicted that I needed to be faithful to the promise that I made to God, that I would come right back. And He was so good and gracious to Tuesday morning remind me of that new thing He had taught me, like to remind myself of who I am in Him and who He is, instead of begging Him for things, just to worship Him, really. So I was thrilled about that. But while I was recording, my husband actually came downstairs. We have like a split level, which means like we don't have a full set of stairs. We have like a garage that's kind of halfway underground, and then a half set of stairs that come up, and then a half set that go to the like bedrooms and stuff. So anyway, he was coming downstairs and I could kind of see him. And y'all, I could have received him with such excitement, because there's probably been 10 times or less that I have been up in the morning and hanging out with God and receiving what He has for me that day, and my husband's come down. And we've been able to enjoy that time together. And those times have been like some of the best times that I've had in the morning. But I was not that way. I was immediately frustrated. I was immediately mad. Another sad part is my husband had actually injured himself the night before at the softball field. So when I saw him, I was looking down a dark hallway, and I was kind of having to like look up and like, who is that? Is that a kid? What is it? And I very easily could have finished processing out loud with you all what the Lord had taught me that morning. But instead, I just was frustrated and impatient and disappointed. And for my husband, who woke up starving because he was hurt, he didn't have enough fuel. He didn't eat enough to rest through the night. So he woke up because he was starving, and he came downstairs to get some food. And the greeting I gave him was, "How dare you interrupt this one little time I have?" And I proceeded to cry and just, I don't know, like vent isn't the right word, wail isn't the right word, but I just went off about how little time I have. And I had prayed to the Lord the day before to wake me up at 4, and he did. So, you know, I don't know. I probably can't even remember all the things that I said, but the point was, I am in control, and you came down, and now I can't be in control anymore, and now I don't have God anymore. And it was such a lie. Like, it was such a lie that either I heard and agreed with, or I said in my own mind and agreed with, and it tore him down. It tore me down. And he was so patient. He just sat there and listened while I cried and yelled about how lots of things. But the point of it was that because of all the responsibilities, I can't hear from God. I can't earn God's word. I can't. And he just sat there and listened. And then he offered up an apology that he did not owe and went back upstairs. He didn't even eat. I felt horrible, but still so starved for the Lord. But I mean, that was it. It was the low of the low. Like, okay, God, getting up at 3:30 and praying in my bed for 30 minutes, reminding myself who you are and who I am in you. Getting out of bed finally at 4 o'clock, grasping for a word from you, and finally getting the smallest bit. And what did I do? I took a hold of it. I took control of it. I wanted to prescribe it to what I had done and how I would keep it and how I wouldn't lose it again. And God was so good to let that happen. And I'm still so sad and sorry for the way that I treated my husband in that moment. But God is so good to him too. And I'm so grateful for the comfort and the peace and the stability and strength that he gave him in that moment. And I don't know what all he is working together for his good from that situation. And I just am grateful for his forgiveness and the forgiveness of the Father. But all that to say, I don't want anyone to be watching this to think I have a hard time hearing from God, or I have a hard time being in the presence of God, or many different things, and think that it's easy for me, or that I don't have days where I just totally blow it, or times or seasons of dry, starving, heavy times. I totally do. And this was just the most recent example of that. But what I had started to explain was the word that God did give me that morning that was so important, because he explained to me, I think I started the other video by saying I was going to reframe, reconstruct something that I had just said the day before, which is just even an indication of how heavy and dry this season was, that as the word of the Lord is coming back to me, I'm not hearing it clearly. Like I thought I had the one that I recorded the night before, and then the next morning explaining my mishearings as I'm like going to do the thing Jesus told me to do. And I'm like hearing a brash, like judgmental, condemning voice that makes me feel ashamed or embarrassed. And that's not the Lord. So that's either my own thoughts from my past that's my flesh getting in the way, or the enemy trying to trip me up. Who knows? But regardless, not from the Lord. So the word that came that morning, so Jeremiah is told in chapter 27 or 28, but he's told that there's going to be false prophets. So I'm reading this Tuesday morning, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then just a few verses later, it's talking about Hananiah, and it's talking about this guy named Hananiah who is basically fluffing the feathers of all the people. And when I was reading it, I was like, wow, yeah, this is so encouraging. Like, yes, the Lord is going to deliver and reveal, not reveal, the Lord's going to deliver and relieve and break the suffering and all this. And I'm like writing in the margin of my Bible, like, yes, yes. And then I get to the part where the Lord is like, no, Jeremiah, you're my prophet. Hananiah is a false prophet. And so I'm like, I just read that a few verses ago, and I totally missed that this is the false prophet, and he's contradicting Jeremiah's word that he did receive from the Lord, just to encourage for encouragement's sake, encourage in a wrong way even. So the Lord reminded me, like, hey, you remember yesterday when you were telling people like your identity is writer and encourager? Well, it's actually not. Your writing and your word that comes from me that you give to people often is encouraging, and that's great, but your identity is not encourager. Your identity is writer, conduit. So he told me I am to be conduit. So I had to write this down because it was crazy to me, because I've been, over the past like year and a half, that is what I've been holding on to as what I thought was the identity that the Lord gave me when I asked, but he actually said, that's not what I said. I said, you're a writer. And then you went ahead and assigned encourager to yourself, but that's not what you are. You're actually conduit. So I wrote in response to the word that he gave me, I am conduit. My identity isn't to encourage, it's conduit. I'm to receive your word and be the conduit into which your word flows, through which your word moves and goes out. Fill the conduit to full, to overflowing. Multiply the inlet of the conduit, to receive more and more of you, to be filled more fully. Dilate the outlet with your perfect measure. When a droplet will satisfy, give me discipline to give a droplet. When a steady stream is required, enable me to give consistently by filling me fully. When a spring is required, let your power supply the need. I am conduit. So I received that word from the Lord, and then I go to like tell you guys, and my husband comes down. I was not conduit. I shut the outlet. I just slammed it closed. And everything that came out was 100% flesh. It was nothing that the Lord had showed me. And in that moment, I do think what could have flowed freely could have been encouraging, loving, helping, any number of things that a husband would want coming downstairs after being injured the night before, knowing that the Lord would supply what needed to flow through the inlet to fill me to give out. And in that moment, it was as if I didn't even hear it. So one of the things that I pray is something I learned from the deep end with Taylor Welch, is to pray that I would be trustworthy of the Lord's secrets. There's a private place reserved for the devoted lovers of God, where they sit near him and receive the revelation secrets of his promises. I want him to be able to trust me with his secrets. This was a revelation secret, and I was not trustworthy. Thankfully, he's a God of unlimited chances. So I was able to come back. He enabled me to come back and say, I'm so sorry. That was not what you needed. I totally blew it. And I went to work that morning just like depleted, and really just went through the pinnacle of that. And the crazy thing is, I came out of it with deconstructing the identity of encourager and reconstructing in its place the identity of conduit. So I hope that you enjoy the fruit of whatever that conduit will carry over the next few times that we have together. And through that time, there has been so many things that the Lord has spoken to me, and I've written them down. So I'm going to share those with you just in little bitty pieces over the next little bit. And I'm really excited to see where the Lord is taking me, and if any of that flow through the conduit to your inlet, I'm excited to see what he does in you too. But if you ever think deconstructing is easy and it doesn't hurt and it isn't hard, watch this one again. I am not an expert at it. I am not immune to the heartache of it. But there is no more meaningful, worthwhile thing I'd rather be doing. So, happy deconstructing, and let me know what is reconstructing in you right now.